Take two of this thing is we're gonna talk about a bunch of movies because we've been out of this for a while. Um, but now we're back and we're gonna talk about some films we saw in the last month. So we're starting with Monkey Man. Monkey Man is a 2024 movie starring and directed by Dev Patel. And it's an action movie where basically Dev Patel stars as like a wrestler who makes like money essentially by getting beaten up for cash. And then he finally decides he's had enough of this and he plans a revenge against like the rich people in the city that he lives in that have wronged him. And it's just his journey of revenge. So, what did you think of this movie?
I think going into it, I was pleasantly surprised. Maybe it's because Matagi makes me watch a lot of really bad movies. But going into it,
I make you watch a lot of movies, all right? It's just unfortunate that 70% of films are garbage.
Yeah, so going into it, I had lowered my expectations considering Dev Patel is a new director. It's his debut film. But pretty quickly, I realized that this is an actual movie and the scenes were, well shot and well structured, and I was being taken through a story that actually intrigued me. So that was really nice that it's a seemingly high budget movie. It wasn't just a starter movie. And the action
$10
scene.
million budget, so it was definitely a high budget movie.
$10 million, okay. That explains it. And the action scenes were really nice. The fight choreography was on point. And Dev Patel was shredded too, so, that certainly added to everything. So I think it was a really enjoyable movie.
I agree. I'm not going to expect, I'm not going to give this the same criticism that I give a veteran of filmmaking because this is his debut. And for that, I think he has a lot of promise. And I'm actually really excited to see any more movies that he brings to fruition. And I like the parallels to Hindu mythology because obviously traditionally we see a lot of Christian mythology being or Nordic mythology being used as parallels in popular culture. But this is a movie that's about Indians, so it's nice that it's about Hindu mythology. But I also like that was not the reason why he did it. It was mostly because he was inspired by his dad's necklace, and his dad's necklace has a Hanuman on it, and that's why he used this god as his template for his movie. That's pretty cool fact that I learned on his AMA.
Yeah. A fact that I can let you know is I think you're going to upset a lot of people by referring to it as Christian mythology.
I'm sorry, guys. It's an interesting story. Don't kill me, please.
Yeah, I think the story was good for me. I like the story, and I think Dev Patel did a good job of showing the pain the main character is going through. And I think you let me know that it was a little bit too much for you. But I like the scenes where he, went back, went back chronologically and showed the trauma he's been through, and that's why this main character has so much anger within him. He's out for revenge.
So I'll put it this way: I think the issue was not to do with the fact that this movie is bad in any way in explaining or anything like that. I think it was fine. I think what happened is that because he was making this for a mainstream, not Indian audience, he was making it for a mainstream global audience, he had to explain a lot of the stories that he was talking about in Hindu mythology. And that's unfortunate because obviously as an Indian who grew up with all of these stories, I know them. So when he's explaining them, I'm kind of tuning out of it. So then when it started to feel like he was over explaining Hindu mythology, I'd also bled into the way he was over explaining everything because I kind of started to feel like it was the same style that he was doing all of it. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just obviously, for me, it won't work because I know what he's talking about. But for somebody who doesn't know what he's talking about, it probably worked a lot better. So you should tell me if it worked a lot better.
Yeah. So I wouldn't say I know absolutely nothing, but I will concede by saying that I know much less about Hindu mythology than you do. So for me, some of the scenes were like, okay, yeah, I know this. And then there was a tidbit thrown here and there where I was like, okay, that's interesting. So even those slightly drawn out explanations of Hindu mythology added to my experience. So I didn't feel
Yeah.
like I was just I didn't tune out.
No, exactly. That part I liked. But since we're only talking about criticisms, the other part that I didn't really like, which again I understand why he did it, but it was a very like black and white outlook on Indian politics and Indian religion. Now, am I saying that everything he's saying is wrong? No, but I also think that there's a lot more nuance to, like Indian politics, mythology, religion, people, communities that he wasn't able to discuss in this film because he had to do so much setup for, explaining the actual background itself to like mainstream audiences, which kind of cut into the time he had to actually explain the real, like nitty gritty of politics in India. So that part, all of those things kind of frustrated me. And while I think that it's a good movie, clearly the CBFC does not, and they're threatening to not even release this film. So as recently as 3 days ago, I saw an article saying that it's going to be banned in India and it's still awaiting censorship. Like the censor board's not letting them do all these things, and even that they had to like change things like changing the flags and the emblems from like saffron to red just to like appease the CBFC. And there's even talks of it being censored on Netflix when it finally gets released on Netflix.
Yeah.
Which is kind of sad because this movie has already had a lot of turmoil in the background where it kind of struggled to be made and it passed on from like production to production. And Dev Patel also talks about how it was difficult for him to, like fit into like the norm because obviously he's a British Indian.
Mm-hmm.
So that's hard to explain to your masses that, hey, this is what I'm trying to make. Because Indian audiences won't get it 100%, but neither will the British or the American audiences. So, what do you think of all this censorship and all this?
Well, I think for the most part, I believe that. I'm kind of conflicted. For the most part, I believe that you should not be banning these kinds of movies. And I think the general population is smart enough to know that, hey, this is just a movie and it's neither made by BJP nor Congress, whatever. So it's just a movie and let's just, watch it as a piece of art. But the reason I'm conflicted is because every time such movies do get released, you'll always find a news article saying some guy burnt up some shop because he saw this movie and he got upset. But at the same time, I also think when the censor board for blocks these things and state political reasons that they don't want turmoil and whatnot, I think they use these situations, these small situations of violence and stuff as excuses to just serve whichever party is filling their coffers. So I think when these kinds of situations happen, hey, somebody burned down a shop, hey, somebody assaulted someone, I think you should address that problem and not, say that, oh, this movie is the root cause and we have to censor all these movies.
Yeah, I think the part that frustrates me is also that, like, when a big star in India does like a movie about drugs or violence, like, like Animal was released, Jailer was released, Leo was all these movies are not like to be dealt with. They don't just deal with like children like they do deal with serious issues. Like I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like they're not, but a lot of them got like a U/A rating instead of an A rating. So if you are considering all of those things as just U/A, I think that putting an A rating on this movie and just releasing it to certain audiences instead of censoring it like the way they censored Oppenheimer, like the way they cut out like stuff from like so many films, like so many Quentin Tarantino movies are pretty much unwatchable in India nowadays because of the fact that they just cut out all the bad words, they cut out all of the like important death scenes because they think it's too violent or whatever, or it's too sexual. Like you can't like, I think that at some point you just have to agree that there are ratings in India for a reason. We have a universal rating. We have a rating that's kind of equivalent to like a parental guidance rating. And then we have an adult rating, which is similar to the R rating. We should just follow that and not do all these hoops and try to like cram everything into a film, like just make it into a film that can be watched by majority of audiences just because we want to like release it in as many theaters as possible. Like that should not be what's happening. It seriously needs to be addressed. um yeah, so overall I think I'm gonna give this movie like a 7 out of 10. It's a good effort. It's a good effort for a directorial debut, and I am definitely looking forward to more movies from him.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think this was a really, really good effort for somebody's first movie. I enjoyed it. Yeah, 7 on 10 sounds good.
7 out of 10 sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So now from moving from a very good movie that we definitely liked to moving to a very bad movie that neither of us liked, that apparently has 8.1 out of 10 on IMDb. I don't know who's bought in these reviews, but whoever they are, no, stop, please. We like to keep this stuff as a sacred space. Let's talk about Kalman. You want to introduce this movie?
All right, let's go. So first off, the introduction on Google is absolutely wrong.
What does it say?
So let me read out the introduction from Google and then let me give you what I got from the movie. So Google says Kalvan is a 2024 Indian Tamil language survival thriller film starring G.V. Prakash Kumar, who also composed the soundtrack. The story revolves around four friends attempting to capture an elephant for a reward while one of them falls for a girl. I think this is probably one of the most misleading movie descriptions I've ever read for a movie.
I mean, to start with, there aren't four friends.
Yeah.
There are two.
So just the very core of the film is absolutely wrong. It's like saying Friends is a sitcom where three guys just do this and blah blah blah.
Just drink at a bar.
Yeah. So it's just criminal what they've done.
And then the next part that's wrong is that it's an action survival thriller movie.
Yeah.
It's not a survival thriller. It's like a comedy, if you could call it that.
Yeah.
Maybe a comedic film, question mark, / drama. I guess you could call it that.
Yeah.
And I don't think they ever try to capture an elephant for a reward.
Yeah, that's just not a part of the movie.
Yeah, we're gonna spoil this movie for you. The plan is not to capture an elephant. The plan is to murder an old man.
Yeah.
I got a Bobby.
And you know how this is sincerely, like, if this movie continued to be a comedy, maybe it could work. But the actual plot of this is that two friends, all right, band together and pretend to be nice people and adopt an old man. You know, like how you can adopt a child, you can also adopt old men. And instead of, being nice people and taking care of this guy in his twilight years, they opt instead to murder him because people who die from elephant tramples and deaths, like the Forest Department of India, gives them money. This is just a cold-blooded murder scheme.
Yeah.
And while all of this is happening, he's also after what I can only say is a barely legal adult woman.
Yeah, that part is really, really disturbing to watch. Because in many movies, when there are these sort of relationships, yeah, sometimes it's a 35-year-old actor and 22-year-old actress, but they put in effort to make the guy look younger. The problem is in this movie, they just don't. This guy looks like he's 35 and this girl looks like she's 19 or 20.
Yeah.
It's just so off to see them have any sort of romantic relationship.
And it's not just that, mind you. It's also the fact that he's like he has a full ass beard.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a job, but it's like clearly he looks like he could have been in like a position of being a petty thief, which is apparently his job description. It's a great job description. For like years, because like clearly all the people in the village, like in the beginning of the movie itself, were like, we don't like this guy. So when you look at that and then you compare it to the fact that she's like a nursing student who literally wears school uniform and goes to college, it just feels so wrong. It feels so it's just bad. So basically none of the characters have any moral compass, which is fine, but not if they try to add morals to it at the end of it. So these are all the bad things that the people in this movie do. Number one, cold blooded murder in exchange for cash of an old man who can't handle himself, mind you, by one of the worst ways you can get murdered, being trampled by an elephant. Number two, there is no other way to put that other than they I feel like I'm gonna get like banned for this on YouTube, so I'll try to censor that as much as possible without mangling it. Number three,
Mhm.
there's like two friends in this movie, like the two leads have friends or whatever,
Oh, yeah.
and they're just like there to exist, and they both are like, at least one of them, like the guy's friend, is in on the scheme to murder an old man. And he doesn't learn anything at the end of the movie. Even though they try to put in all these pesky morals into the film, he doesn't learn his lesson at all.
Yeah.
And number four is that, like, they literally plan ways to murder this man, and one of them is literally blunt force trauma by using a fake elephant foot.
Yeah, I don't know whose idea that was.
We know whose idea that was. It was the friend, the weird, the
No, I
horrible
mean,
friend.
While writing the
Oh.
script, you can't just bash somebody with an elephant head and then
Elephant foot.
with an elephant foot or a replica of one, and it's just gonna look like blunt force trauma. It's not gonna look like, okay, that was clearly an elephant foot. No, how can you know? You're just gonna know like it's probably a blunt object made of a dense material.
It didn't even
this
look
big.
like an elephant foot.
Yeah, so I don't know what logic there was. I think one of my main problems with this movie is something I've seen in many Indian films, is that you start off with a character who's absurd and just principally
irredeemable.
wrong, irredeemable, and then just because the audience doesn't want to see their favorite actor being a bad guy, you start becoming preachy, and then you're supposed to like the character. I don't like that shift. I think it's entertaining to see absurd characters do insane stuff. That's fun too. But then when you see that, and then they have this scene where he's had a change of heart, and you're supposed to like him now. I can't like him now.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's a difference between making a quirky character who's kind of flawed, and making a man who's literally willing to kill somebody. Right? Like, there's a huge difference between the two. And the audacity of this movie to try to get us to forgive him, and for the people who he hurt, which includes an old man. I want to emphasize this again. An old, helpless man, all right, who doesn't have anyone in his life. He's an orphan. He's trying to murder this guy.
Yeah.
And the audacity of him to like be like, oh no, it's totally okay. Like, I forgive you. I forgive you for like trying to do this horrible thing to me. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, you would never, just put yourself in those shoes and tell me if you would forgive somebody just because suddenly they're like, oh, I'm a terrible person, I'm a murderer, I'm all these things. Like, no.
Yeah.
US, you are. Go to jail. Goodbye.
And another thing in this movie is they're so actively trying to downplay the sins of this main character that apparently even the cops have zero moral compass. Like, nobody has any conscience.
Yeah. There's like a scene in this movie where like, because they're criminals, one of their ideas is to like get money, is to steal someone's house, which mind you is how he meets the lead actress. Isn't that a great way to meet your future husband? All right. He tries to steal stuff from her house by placing her at knife point, mind you. Okay. And when obviously they get caught, the police don't do anything to them.
Yeah.
You know what they do?
And this is a guy who's held a girl at knife point. Okay, it's not
And
not
also
the
he's
village,
a repeat offender.
and he's a repeat offender. It's not the village bum who steals an extra cabbage and they put him in lockup for 2 days and say get out. It's a guy who's actually willing to commit murder. And when they catch these guys, they're outside. The cops have no idea what to do with them. They have no protocol for what to do with an offender, they just see this random potato truck driving with his peepaw on the horn, and they're just like, okay, sit on it and get lost. And I'm like, they just improvised a punishment for somebody who's willing to take a life. And it's just so absurd to me that everyone's okay with that. They were just like, sit on it, get out of here. That's it.
What kind of cops are these? Everyone is terrible. And also, after all of this garbage, right? The ending of this movie is terrible because he gets the girl, because of course he does. I don't know how he gets the girl after she finds out that he's trying to murder somebody. All right, he gets the girl and he gets a job working in the forest department. The same place that he was planning to push people into and murder them for money.
I got a Bobby.
What?
Yeah.
Who would give this man a job over there after that?
I have no idea.
Well, what do you think? He's probably going to get one of his single friends over there to sign his life insurance over to this guy and then murder him, and you're just going to be like, oh yeah, this is a perfectly normal thing to do.
Yeah.
Screw this, man. Screw this shit.
It's just when they're doing this transition from comedy to preachy stuff, I feel like, there's a point where the comedy ends and then and they start getting preachy, and then I'm like, okay, it doesn't really gel well with me. And then after a certain point, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna forget about that part and assume, okay, now I like him, his sins are forgiven. Let's see what happens and let's see where the movie takes me now. Okay, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt, and they undo all of it at the end with the ending scene. I just feel like, okay, I've been gaslit now. And
yeah, because the ending scene literally has some guy coming around announcing that they've increased the cost of getting damages for when you lose a loved one to an elephant. And they just give each other a look, the two murderers give each other a look and look at the guy who they were supposed to murder to begin with.
Yeah.
And that's how the movie ends.
And this is after there's full on tears and crying and sobbing.
And when they outran an elephant, which the speed of elephants is 40 kilometers an hour. So
yeah, nobody's outrunning an elephant on foot except this guy apparently.
They run faster than a car.
Yeah, so that made no sense. Yeah.
And after he baby traps the lead child.
Mm-hmm.
So it's after doing all the great things, it's not actually you can redeem him. I don't know how you liked him after that. He baby trapped the lead.
Yeah. And at the end of all this guy was a petty thief. He found love. He adopted a man. He put aside his murder plans. He's grown. He has character now.
He's back.
All of this, he's back. But through all of this, his best friend's just the same bum he was before. He's collecting firewood at the end. When this guy's a full-on officer in his uniform. So he's just the same guy. He didn't do anything.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's terrible. Don't watch this movie. I can assure you, I've seen TV movies that look better and are better written and better thought out than this garbage.
Yeah.
Just if you see GVK making movies, run. Run like the wind.
I think I'd give this maybe a 4.
I'd give it a -6. It's not even entertaining, it's just bad.
Yeah.
If it's a -10, it's entertainingly bad. It's not even there.
Yeah, there's just too many things wrong with this movie.
Yeah. Okay, well, we don't really have time to talk about this film, but I still want to mention it. It goes to Avesham, which is Fahad Fasil's new movie. This is the most fun I've had while watching something in a long time. I was so happy that I watched it, and
I loved this movie. This movie was a joyride for me. And you know how earlier we spoke about that other movie where there was time travel through the phone call? I forgot the name.
Mark Antony.
Mark Antony. So it was such a similar vibe because it was angry comedy, and I love it. And Fahad Fasil did an amazing job. I was beaming throughout.
Yeah, I had so much fun. Guys, this is still in theaters, so please go watch it. It's amazing. I cannot recommend it enough. It's a 9 out of 10. And now that Malayalam cinema can also do comedy, I think Tamil cinema is officially screwed. Okay. That's the end of this. This is a quick hopefully 30 minutes. I'm trying to make it into 30 minutes. But I hope you guys enjoyed all of our discussions, and we'll see you next month. Bye.
Bye.